So once again, at the Divine Mercy Care, the Tepeyac Family Center, serve, inspire, and unify. We want to build the churches. We want to break down those walls between Catholic and Anglican and all these pro-lifers that come out and pray. How do we do that? How do we bring them together? How do we break down the walls in the different ways of natural family planning? How do we bring unity? How do we get at the elephants in the room? How do we do that? How do we do that today? And so at the Tepeyac Family Center, which is our OBGYN practice, we work on 4 principles. Health is based on relationships found in community, which is communion. Do you know if you take a man or a woman, 60 years of age, hypertensive, diabetic, overweight, tired, exhausted, and all the above, like me, and you give them a good family, I have less morbidity and mortality. It doesn't matter how many programs or how much access I have to healthcare. If I have good family around me, people who care, who love me, who will sacrifice, I will have less sickness. Health is based on relationships. It's that relationship between doctor and patient, mom and baby, mom and her support group, mom and her pastor, mom and her seminarian, mom with her sister, mom with her. It's a relationship. It's that relationship with Jesus Christ. That's the Eucharistic this is living the Eucharistic presence. Building community that is a real relationship with the real living presence of Jesus. Number 2, medicine is an act of mercy. It's like housing the homeless, clothing the naked, feeding the hungry. It's the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. That's why we call it Divine Mercy Care. Because this is the way you're going to be the light on the hill and that sign of contradiction in your community. It's what you guys do here. It's what we're trying to do. It's what we're trying to share. Thirdly, hate the disease but love the patient. When I said that at Johns Hopkins, there was a standing ovation because they were desperate for hearing something more than just the science. How do you go beyond? Well, what is love? Love is accompanying that patient through her experience. If you need to have the abortion, Jane, you can still come back to Tepeyac and we will take care of you. No questions asked. We will accept you where you are. We will walk with you and we will be there for you when you begin to question what you did. You walk with them. Hate the disease, love the patient. You do a holistic model, body, soul, and spirit. You care about their relationships. You care about their meditative or prayerful. If the woman is an agnostic, you tell her there is a higher power and you're not it. You meet them where they are and you just move them one step further. With the in vitro world, this is how you do this. The woman says, you know, Dr. John, I'm not getting pregnant. I really want to go do IVF. Okay, Jenny, Pete, you have to answer one question. The embryos that they're going to make in vitro, are they your children or are they your property? Do you love them or do you own them? Now, I can't answer that for you because I don't, I'm just your doctor. But I do know that you have to answer that question because I can tell you scores of women come back and say they regret the fact that there were frozen embryos that they left in those concentration camps in those scientific facilities. Once again, you don't need the right answer because the Holy Spirit does the hard work. He does the conversion. We just have to present this in a way. When you start doing and you start looking at the human fertility cycle as something healthy and natural and cooperative rather than something to be repressed, cut out, and suppressed, amazing things happen so you can identify the causes of infertility or the causes of stress or the causes of irregular cycles rather than just the symptoms. It's fascinating. We also do stress work in our office, like I was telling you before, looking at the whole person. You know, when my daddy passed away, I was so healed by Dr. Allen's talk. You know, he'd been with us for so long, so I went through it all. Daddy, I love you. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I forgive you, and goodbye. Holistic. When you merge palliative care with hospice the way he talked, healing, generational healing occurs. My father was in the seminary. He left a month before he was ordained. St. Mary's in Baltimore. He was there in the mid-50s. It was a little different than your place here. They were writing stuff that was somewhat not really solid in the Catholic faith. And he was the editor of their theological journal. And he suffered a nervous breakdown because he couldn't do it. I am so grateful Dr. Chris is with you all. I'm so grateful that you are here in Denver, that you're alive. You guys are making eye contact. You've been here all day. My God. Grace and peace. You know, the opening of Thessalonians, man. So what I'm trying to say is that when you hate the disease but love the patient, amazing things can happen. You begin to learn the language of the theology of the body, and you do it without even using all that highfalutin stuff. But you talk about the aloneness. You talk about the lack of intimacy. Because in the end, people want to know that they live here, they come here for a purpose. They want to know that they have a purpose in life, male or female. And that's that longing and hunger that when you say, I build relationships, I accompany that person. It's what Pope Francis is trying to tell us. It's what Benedict tried to tell us. It's what John Paul II, those are the folks in my lifetime. They were all talking about this. And now we have a synod on the family stopping today. I'm going to end here with that. And so the fourth one is, by collaborating and working together, we can make abortion unwanted, children welcomed, families stronger, and communities healthier. Not in a utopian way, but in a real Eucharistic way. My body, my choice, doesn't last. It's fleeting. My body, this is my body, given up for you. Do this in remembrance of me. That's the answer. The Eucharist is real for us docs. So I am just so grateful that you were listening, that you were awake from lunch. I am so thankful. I am so thankful to be able to interact. I hope we can generate some questions and some conversations, because I want this to continue in the sense of we need to help one another. We have to build the body of Christ, transforming one heart at a time. So thank you very much.
We'll let them ask a question with the mic, and then we can respond.
That's fine.
Is that all right?
That's good.
All right, we'll use the same format as last year. If you have a question, if you could form a line here. Let's try to keep it to one question and not dialogue and comments and everything. Let's try to keep it to questions, and then we'll have to hand the mic back to the doctor to respond. Okay? Here we go.
Thank you, Dr. John. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I really appreciate those little bits that you give before the woman goes for in vitro, or considering those seeds that we can plant.
Yeah.
But particularly from the trade, many of us are not necessarily working in obstetrics. We're either in healthcare or we're just laymen and women. And we're outside the Crisis Pregnancy Center, and we're looking for what are some of those seeds that you found are very effective in being able to just kind of, like, the seeds that they're looking for, the good ones to kind of, I guess, get them thinking.
I met Tiffany last night at a CMA dinner, and thank you for that question. You mean that question outside the abortion clinic?
Yeah.
Okay, so several things. You can say, we can help you, you don't need to do this. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is, yesterday morning, so once again, we have this ministry to help doctors and healthcare providers, right? So yesterday morning, I spoke with an abortionist in Central Florida who's become my friend. His name is Randy Whitney, and he's ready to try to give it up. He's absolutely, because the person outside the clinic had a relationship with this guy. Initially, it was adversarial, but the person outside his clinic kept saying, don't you just want to talk? I really want to know, I want to understand what you're doing, because I believe you really care for women. He said, yeah, we can talk. So Randy says the Divine Mercy Chapel. Randy is 70 plus years of age. I want this whole community to pray for Randy's mind and heart and soul to be opened to this message. But what I found most simple was this simple. To the woman, you don't have to do this, we can help you. And know real quickly where to send them, like to Lighthouse. A great facility. It needs to be busting at the seams. We want to see that place dirtied because it's so beautiful. I'm just teasing. It's gorgeous. It's loving, it's inviting, the music, the whole senses. So it's just that. That's what seems to be the best. Once again, I'm thinking through, this idea of graphic images. What jerks my chain is that I get rewards for not killing babies. That's crazy. That's Thessalonians. I get praised for not killing babies. It breaks my heart. I'm a good doc, but I'm not that good. You just work. Also making relationships with abortionists. We've got 5 or 6 going on right now. Meeting them where they are and trying to help them, once again, because I think about Psalm 83, where it's easy to throw friggin' stones at these people. They're evil. The enemy's us. Lenin said that if he would have met someone with the power of St. Paul, he wouldn't have become an atheist. And so that challenges, it's that simple question, Tiffany, about we can help you, you don't have to do this. Can you wait another day? Do you have any doubt that this is not the right decision? Because remember, 70% of women say they were forced into doing it. They have no choice. And when you're loving and caring, so this idea of the challenge of graphic images at that moment at the end, I don't know. I mean, I'm not on that side of the fence, but I know people are, because once again, I also get frustrated that Gosnell shows babies that had their spinal cord severed, and he gets put in jail, but the industry doesn't get changed. My state kind of reversed its stand on examining abortion clinics. What's that all about? Planned Parenthood, I'm waiting to see about defunding. Certain states are going after it so just back to your question, it's just that simple, loving response. We can help you. You don't have to do this. Are you sure this is the right decision? And you plant that seed. You plant that image in their head. And I think it goes a long way, especially that psychological, that image that's left in that sound bite that they hear before walking in. Because once they walk in, it's mostly about empowerment. And you can do this. And then the bleeding and the emptiness happens after that.
My question may be a follow-up to what you just said, so your answer may be yours. When the videos first came out, everybody thought, good, we're going to get them.
Yeah.
Now they'll see them. And yet, now it seems to have fallen off the radar.
Oh, thanks, bro. Right, no. Sure.
And then these politicians are trouble.
Yeah. Here. I'm an OBGYN, so I get a little anxious when I'm around trial lawyers. But in regard to politicians, it's a real challenge. We have to create a language that people will not just shut us off. We also have to try to work with the hearts of these politicians. Many politicians' wives are pro-choice. And so, they may say one thing, but in the end, I think we have to work for, I heard a wonderful idea last night that we can maybe help work with pro-life Democrats. Because once again, trying to find that coalition between the sides. So you get to that thing about these videos. The good thing about what Dave did is that Dave has more videos and he has more information. So once again, sometimes these spirits are supposed to be kicked out through prayer and fasting. And so for me, it's offering up, whatever I can do just for the change of heart of our world. I mean, I fully believe that we are in the book of Acts, advancing through opposition. I believe that we are in Thessalonians. We are in the dark ages, ladies and gentlemen. And, what did Benedict do? He started building monasteries to try to preserve the truth. How do you cooperate? So I'm hoping, that the videos that continue to come out, remember, they already have had forensic and professional video reviewers, people who do the technology behind it, saying that these videos are legit, not doctored. I forget the name of the Fire or something.
Heavily edited.
They weren't heavily edited, right? And so what happens is that the blessing of also what Dave did is that he put out the full video at the same time he put out the edited video. So you had a chance to see the entire 2.5 hours or the entire 80 minutes of the video at the same time that you see the 8 or 7 minute YouTube clip. You can do both and. If you're trying to hide things, you don't do that. Genius on his part. But once again, I think once again we're living in Thessalonians. Peoples are blind. When you pull Christ out of the equation, the protection kind of leaves. And all of a sudden, people are caught up in the belief of their lies. And my heart can be hardened. That's why I keep saying Psalm 83 all the time. It's easy to throw stones and say they're the enemy, they need to go to wherever, and they need to be shamed, and their business needs to be destroyed. I want them to come to find the healing presence of Jesus Christ like I did. I want their salvation. I'm not interested in I want their business to go down, trust me, yes. On politics, I don't know the answer to that. We still have to keep fighting the good fight. There's incredible people here in the healthcare community that are participating at that level. And we can put you in touch with those folks if you're a political person. But I think it's more than that. I think it's engagement at a different level. It's more on the spiritual level.
I want to change the topic a little bit. And
Thank you.
I want to ask you if you can give us a little bit of a flavor of the types of women getting went up to half babies.
Oh, sure.
When they were thinking of IVF or just struggling with fertility, and how that compares with maybe the success of IVF.
Oh, sure, sure. So, we take a body, soul, and spirit approach to the issue of infertility, or the issue of medicine in general. Body, soul, and spirit. We look for the underlying causes. We don't want to put a Band-Aid on the process. However, at some point, the body gets so broke that you have to do something other. So basically what we've done is we've used the NAPRO technology, the cooperative healthcare, the integrated healthcare as we call it, and we look at the whole person, meaning rather than doing blood draws, we do saliva testing for the hormones of estradiol, progesterone throughout the cycle. So we basically look at luteal phase and proliferative phase, and we look at the ratios of hormones that Dr. Tom Hilgers has been doing out in Omaha for quite some time. And so what we're doing is that we basically look at that body, soul, and spirit approach. We look at hormones. We look at, are the tubes open? We look at, is there endometriosis? Can you surgically correct that? So at our center, we do all of that except some of the more aggressive surgeries in the uterus. But I can tell you that our success rate has been to identify simple hormonal imbalances in our saliva test or in our blood work. Some of our successes have been on women who have had thyroid disease. We have had a lot of successes by using stress work, meaning looking at cortisol and DHEA, weight around the middle, exhaustion, libido down, dry skin, constipated, hair loss, nails not grown. We see these all the time. Well, some of that is pure, unadulterated stress work. You measure cortisol, DHEA, you modulate that over time. You get at the underlying cause. Some of it is the difficulty with their husband because he's got the problem of pornography. I want to tell you, have you all heard about, Archbishop Sam here is like an A+. Bishop Tom Olmsted down in Phoenix, he just wrote a piece on the male Catholic standing in the breach. I recommend every male to read it because I'm seeing pornography out. Once you address the pornography issue, all of a sudden the stress of the woman decreases. They don't bring that up right away. You have to listen to them. What is the language of their body saying? Do you get them to chart their cycle? At the Jones Institute, when I was doing in vitro work, We did spin Barkite, which is a stretch of the mucus, on every single in vitro patient. The heart of the Creighton method, the heart of ovulation method Billings, the heart of Family of the Americas. We did in the in vitro clinic because it was scientifically valid. And so we have, in fact, somebody came up and said that one of their friends had come to us, yeah, and we helped her get pregnant because we did great endometriosis surgery. What Bella does, what the other fertility care centers do, impressive. Cooperating with the body, that it's not something to be repressed and cut off, and cooperative. It's been a blessing for us at the Tepeyac Family Center.
Thanks, Dr. John.
Sure.
I'm a family practice doctor in Northern Colorado, Fort Collins.
Uh-huh.
And you alluded to, but I wonder if you could expound a little bit on current day use of contraceptives for so many non-contraceptive,
Non-reproductive problems.
non-reproductive problems.
Sure.
And recently there was a blurb out saying that the contraceptive pills will reduce the rates of uterine cancer, which is another one of the tools, talking to some of my colleagues.
Yes, ma'am.
They say, well, what about ovarian cancer as a reason not to stop prescribing?
Sure. So the question is, on the oral contraceptive front, as a family practitioner, because they saturated the market. Remember, when they say that women don't have access to contraceptives, you understand that that's like crazy, right? In the city of New York, they have more contraceptives per square block than anywhere in the world, and they have more abortions still in New York City than anywhere in the world, rate-wise. So let's go back to this contraceptives and healthcare, so contraceptives outside. So when I was a resident, if you had too much bleeding, too little bleeding, too much pain, not enough pain, if you had too long of cycles, too short of cycles, you just use the pill because you override the pituitary with the estradiol and the progestin in the pill, and you shut off the brain and you just rework it. And so, for instance, dysmenorrhea, which is painful periods. A lot of times it's the imbalance between calcium and magnesium that is the real cause of why the uterus is screaming during the menstrual cycle. And so by just augmenting the patient with magnesium, 200 milligrams at first, up it by 200 every week. Once again, what Dr. Tom Hilgers had done is that he has gone through many different avenues or many different conditions that we used to treat with the pill, and now you can treat them with cooperative progesterone, with thyroid. Do you know we're now helping to treat infertile men with a blood pressure medicine called lisinopril? It's documented, it's statistical. And so I think that we have to take a breath. Now, in our practice, occasionally, we still use, because once again, after we do everything we can naturally and cooperatively, they're still having a problem. And before they go to surgery, they don't want surgery, we sometimes use the pill. We tell them to abstain 7 days mid-cycle, have the possible risk of an escape ovulation, but we still try it before we go to surgery. So we're a little different than others. But it's usually short-term, it's not long-term. And so once again, the birth control pill has positives and negatives. In the old days, when they had such a high estrogen rate and such a high progesterone rate, what happened with the first study? It caused many men to have testicular shrinkage. It caused women to have heart attacks and strokes. So they had to keep backing down the dose. Well, now we have pills that are, rather than 50 mics of estrogen, they're only 20 micrograms of estrogen. But because that has the problem that we're now increasing escape ovulation. That's why we have that 7-day window when you're taking the pill, just out of respect for what God is trying to do, or possibly trying to do. Birth control pills have been shown to decrease the risk of uterine and ovarian cancer. But what they don't tell you is that they increase the risk of breast cancer and cervical cancer. So when you compare the two back to back, there's more side effects by causing the cancers down the road. And so you have to be wise with the literature. You have to be able, there's some really good things out there by Chris Kallenborn, if you know him, internist who's looked at oral contraceptive use. And That would be the answer to that initially. But it's cooperative care. It's looking at the whole person and treating what is available right then and there.
Thank you, Dr. John. I apologize if I go on too long. It's an issue that I have. But I will get to the point. When I first met you, I asked you if there were any trial lawyers here. You said you cringed, like you just said a minute ago. I've been looking for a pro-life trial attorney. And you talked about strategy to promote this, gospel of life. I've read a lot of the works of Teresa Burke. The book that I'm thinking about right now is Forbidden Grief. And there's documentation after documentation of women that are suicidal. They've been sterilized in abortion clinics. And even there are people today living that survived abortions. I remember seeing a photo of a young girl that was missing an arm. It occurred to me that as we, you're talking about strategies, and I've been looking for somebody to talk to about this for a number of years, and this is the place to do it, get it out there. Years ago, there was a class action lawsuit. My mother was a part of it. She got cancer from an IUD. Why aren't we dragging Planned Parenthood before the public in the courtroom and bringing these victims forward? Dr. Teresa Burke's probably had thousands of people that would be willing to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there and have your thoughts on it.
Sure.
Something like that, because Planned Parenthood is a snake. We need to cut the head off of it. Right. And to drag that all out to the open, I mean, what 12 people in the jury are going to rule in the favor of Planned Parenthood? We have women there that have their lives absolutely destroyed by abortion. I don't see that. I'd like your thoughts on that.
Oh, buddy. Not that I don't. That's a big question, and I'm not sure I can answer it right here, right now. I might want to do this offline. In the state of Virginia, I was asked to. In the state of Virginia, I was asked to be an expert witness in regard to the partial birth abortion bill because I'd done a few. It got out of committee because a African-American Democrat grandmother basically heard the testimony and said, I don't want my grandchild. I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-abortion, but I don't want my grandbaby to be murdered that way. It got out of committee and it got passed. Well, of course, Planned Parenthood lawyers tied it up in court. This is in the state of Virginia, several years ago. Well, I was deposed for 3 or 4 hours at our local court by the Planned Parenthood lawyer from New York City. And for about 3 hours and 45 minutes of the 4-hour deposition, I held my own. I answered the questions. Is there any reason you have to do this? No, we don't have to. This is how you do this. This is the science behind it. 3 hours and 40 minutes, I just handled. Then he said, I want to take another tact on this. Dr. Bruchalski, do you consider yourself an expert? Yeah, I'm a board-certified OBGYN. Do you consider yourself a Catholic? I said, what does that have to do with anything? He goes, you need to answer the question. And I blurted out, do you consider yourself a Jew? Because once again, I kind of figured out where he was going with this. So he says, so are you a practicing Catholic? I said, yes, I'm a practicing Catholic. He says, do you contracept? I said, yeah, I contracept. I space children all the time. Remember, you got to use their language. Can't lie, but you got to use their language. So you don't, wait. And now they're looking at their Google search or whatever, and they're just going, do you contracept? Yeah, we space kids at our practice. We've actually done it economically. We've done it along with the environment. We've gone green in that regard. Do you use contraceptives in your practice? Yes, I use contraceptives in my practice. Now he's really concerned because occasionally we use oral contraceptives to help do something medically. Do you use contraceptives for contraception? No. If 99% of your peers don't do what you do, how can you be considered an expert? I said, I got to see if there's any kids in here. I said, you don't have a vagina. How can you represent women? Now, no. I'm only saying this because they went after me. They went after my integrity. They went after my life. They went after me. I stepped back, and my 2 lawyers behind me who were representing me for the state of Virginia, you know, Johnny, we can't really use you at the hearing. You're a liability. Being a practicing Catholic is a liability? Dude, you guys went to Notre Dame. Come on. No. Was not able to go to the court and be on the stand. They thought they couldn't protect me. That's where this was years ago. Take a deep breath. Daddy's in charge. Daddy is in charge, and he is faithful. As the Mother of God keeps telling me, Johnny, has he ever let you down? No, he hasn't. But yeah, I don't have a good answer to your question, but I do want to follow up with you. Because once again, I think we've become hardened of heart. My concern is that we can try our best to litigate this, but I'm not sure it would work anymore. I think we're at a point in time, we can try, we should go after it with all of our energy, but I think it's a different battle plan right now. And so, but we can take this off online.
Thank you. I enjoyed your presentation. I have a comment and then a question. I'm a registered nurse who worked at the Denver Hospital on a med-surg unit where we had women admitted to have abortions, some of them their second and third times. The late-term abortions were done at that time by saline injection. And I understand that's no longer being done, and I'm curious what is being done instead.
Thank you, Mary Lou. So we don't do saline abortions anymore because of DIC, which is disseminated intravascular coagulation. The woman's blood coagulation system begins to break down because too much of the salt gets into the bloodstream. So we don't do that anymore. We used to call those cherry babies because the babies would come out burned, cherry red skin. You understand what I'm talking about. So when I had my metastatic cancer, the only people that would help me without charging me were the abortionists. Everybody else wanted to take some money from me when I was by myself, seeing my patients, doing 20 deliveries a month, being the pro-life doctor. And the guys that helped me were guys that I helped with complications from saline abortions. I've got 2 comments about that. One is today in the literature and in the videos, they're complaining, like in videos 7 and 8, about digoxin. So remember, one of the ways that we kill big babies is we give the mother Cytotec, which helps contract her uterus. But we don't want a live baby coming out because that proves problematic. So we take a needle, an amniocentesis needle, long, skinny, through the abdomen, find the baby's heart, pierce the heart, and squirt digoxin. We used to use potassium chloride, and it would stop the baby's heart. It's what they do for in vitro fertilization when they do selective reduction, going from 3 to 2, 2 to 1. Well, watch what happens. Now, because we have another partner in the play, remember, STEM Express is just a go-between between the abortion facility, the abortuary, and the research center. They are the middleman. You can't squirt that baby with digoxin. Why? Because it's going to hurt the baby? No, because it makes the specimen tainted, so the researchers can't do their work on the fetus. So your question is spot on. It's this idea that we don't do it anymore, but now we're killing them in a way that the arms and legs and the heart and lungs and liver can be harvested. It's crazy. It's crazy. And yet they still don't want to defund it? Come on. Even if you're pro-choice, this is kind of barbaric, but this is the face of abortion. This is what it is. So what's the difference between us doing it or having it done inside the uterus, cutting up the face or what have you? But it's the calculated callousness. And so I thank you for your service at this local hospital for all those years, trying to do, this is who we have to pray for, us, who are out there in the environment. Not everybody works at the Tepeyac Family Center or at Bella or at, these other good places. What is it, Our Lady of Hope, Dr. Ted's practice. Wow. But we're trying to build that alternative culture, still be involved. One of our partners is the head of our department. One of our pro-life doctors is the head of our OB department. Struggles, because we want to be in the world, but we don't want to be of the world. But I am grateful for that. Oh, hey, Tiffany.
Thank you for that tip on dysmenorrhea and magnesium,
Okay.
because that's something we really don't learn in school besides ibuprofen or
Correct.
birth control.
Right.
And so first question, is there somewhere that we can go in a way to learn some of those very natural methods or good methods to support some of the practical issues? And the second, part of the question is actually, I noticed that your clinic does adolescent health. I was wondering how you go about that without just pushing long-active reversible contraceptives, which is pretty much adolescent health today, especially in the public realm.
So there is a textbook out there by Dr. Tom Hilgers on NAPRO technology. It's real thick, and it has some alternatives. But actually, I think someone's going to have to write this up. I think we're at a point in time where we need to put this down on paper. Because I'm not sure, and I'm going to ask the docs here, does anybody know of a good alternative? Because there are some naturopathic and herbal remedies for a lot of these issues. I know we use black cohosh and some red raspberry tea as a uterine tonic in our practice. And so, but I think it's just conversational, meaning, you intern or you rotate through our office and you pick up those suggestions as they arise. But you're prompting us to really think about getting it out more educationally. I mean, in a more concrete way. Your second question was adolescent health. Well, every 6 years in OBGYN, we have to recertify our board exams. So I was board certified in 1993. And so every 6 years, you got to redo it. So this past year, I'm studying for my boards. And what I found amazing is that every question that said a 15-year-old teenager, the answer to the question, as soon as I saw 15 years old, the answer was an IUD. Did you hear what she said? Right now, the cutting edge of OBGYN and medicine is to stick an IUD, either progesterone or copper, into a 15-year-old's uterus. So I went back to my confessor and said, is that legal? Like, I still want to be board certified and work at the hospital. Do I have to answer these questions? Because I felt like dirty. Every answer so my profession is pushing this. So for our young women, we talk to them about lifestyle. We talk to them about sexual activity. We talk to them about smoking, drinking, alcohol. Many of our patients are brought in either by their parents. We talk to them with their parents and without their parents. And we always encourage them to talk to their parents because their parents love them. And we have had great strides there. The other part that we found a great opening to is that many teens don't like having sex. They're being forced or used. And all you do is give them the option, do you really enjoy having sex? And they'll giggle. The giggle means they don't. We can help you, teach you how to tell this guy to buzz off. You plant the seed, you water it, you just give him, and once again, you just open it up. Do you enjoy having sex with your boyfriend? Is that really what you want to do? Are you ready to be a parent? You're trying to unite. Remember, once again, the culture has destroyed the connection between sex and babies and bonding. And now we have, sexless babies and sex without babies. It's crazy. But You can do that very simply, and they respond wonderfully to diet. You talk to some of these girls, they're jacking up their sugar, they're jacking up their artificial sweeteners, they're jacking up Red Bull, Jolt, 2 and 3 and 4 of them at a time. Of course. You talk to them about long-term effects. You talk to them about, are you feeling crummy? Even Advil in a certain dose is safe, and it also decreases blood flow and kind of helps sometimes get through. You just meet people where they're at and see, is the mother involved? Is the mother not involved? Are the parents together? You got to look at that whole person. And so, yeah, I appreciate the question, Tiff.
So I was at the post office of all places, and the woman that I was talking to was telling me this whole story about how her, I think, 35-year-old daughter was in the hospital. She had gone in with a stroke and had nearly died and all this other stuff. And she's telling me this whole story, and it comes out that the cause was she's on the pill. And this woman said that her daughter's neurologist told her that they're seeing an increase in these cases in Colorado because the pill, they were saying hormonally that the pill is stronger than it used to be, which seems to not be what you were just saying, so maybe I heard it wrong.
No.
But that at high altitudes, it's, especially in women who are in their upper 20s and in their 30s, it's causing strokes at a much higher level than it used to, and the rate of survival without brain damage is really low.
Wow.
And so, so she was talking about how, she has no idea what I do, I'm Catholic minister, and she said, so you need to tell everybody not to take the pill. I was like, I would try. But she was saying from a totally, I don't know what kind of background she's coming from, but she said this neurologist told her if he had the ability, he would outlaw the prescribing of the birth control pill in high altitude locations like Colorado because they're seeing just a massive increase in these cases. So even when we do presentations to my kids,
Wow.
we have medical personnel on our course and everything like that, this is something I had never heard of.
Right.
So I wasn't sure if in Virginia you guys were seeing this, or if this is kind of a new thing, or if
No,
it's
no,
just
no.
one other thing that's happening that nobody's talking about.
What was your first name again?
Sue.
Thank you, Sue. This is news to me in regard to this altitude. My idea of high altitude sickness was driving my boys up to the top of Pikes Peak, making them throw a football and watching them get a little dizzy, which we did several years ago. I find it fascinating because I think what's happening, Sue, is that the hormones and oral contraceptives in some places are these, black boxed warning carcinogens. They're strong and they're potent. So what we've been trying to do, and what I was a part of, is that at first you only had some basic progestins, what they call the first generations. Then they went to the second and third generation progestins that they thought were great because guess what? They stopped mid-cycle spotting. So I still remember the days when we were doing this work, we were using desogestrel and other second and third trimester progestins, because remember, birth control pills come out, they're all 150s or higher. Then they began to drive the numbers lower, especially the estrogen component. So now we got the estrogen down to about 35 micrograms or 20 micrograms. That's a lower dose. And then guess what? The patient started bleeding throughout their cycle, and they would then stop the pill. Because what they don't tell you in a lot of these studies is, of 100 people who start the study, only 35 are there by a year or two because of the side effects. We saw that all the time in our work. So as you drop the dose of estrogen, you have to change the dose of progestin, or the different ways of doing it, to prevent mid-cycle bleeding. And when you prevent mid-cycle bleeding, it causes them to have a better use rate. And so we know that the Nuva ring, the ring that goes in the vagina, or the newer progestins like Yaz, we're seeing a higher risk of coagulable problems in those. Absolutely. But now you add the high altitude where you drop I guess it would be, the other internist here would know much better than I, but the blood becomes thicker. There's less fluid. And so therefore you become artificially elevated, concentrated, which would then think that if you have a narrowed circle of Willis or a narrowed something, it might stick. But I think that when we see, we're seeing increasing amounts of lung pulmonary embolisms, blood clots to the lungs in young women, 99%. That's the pill. And also, I would say over 90% of pulmonary emboli found in young women under the age of 30, there's birth control, there's a hormonal association with that. Secondly, we haven't even begun to talk about the oral contraceptive or abortion regarding breast cancer. This is the other thing. Susan Komen gets bullied by Planned Parenthood. They stop and then they restart their support. We argue about, stopping breast cancer. How many mammograms does Planned Parenthood do? Zero. They refer out for mammograms. But that referral is considered 1. So they don't even do that. And yet, when you abort a woman, just one study from the National Cancer Institute, Janet Dolling's work in the mid-90s, they put all the data together. There's no association between breast cancer and abortion. However, in the subgroup buried on page 6, when you look at those 14 women who had a positive family history of breast cancer and an abortion before the age of 20, guess what? All 14 women developed breast cancer before the age of 50. Never reported, never brought up in the study. It was never told. Unbelievable. When they talk about, well, anyway, that's a whole other issue. Hey, Bob.
By the way, John, I'm from Jersey City. I went to the Jesuit College.
All right.
I have a question for you.
He was talking Polish to me last night.
In Dublin?
Yeah.
I'm not going to play the other ones. How would you advise a young medical student who is interested in obstetrics how to financially survive in this environment? You have a nonprofit. We heard from Bella, that's a nonprofit. I am aware of only one obstetrician in the Denver metro area who is making it as a Catholic OBGYN. All of the others who call themselves Catholic or at least prescribing birth control. So I am curious as to how you would advise a young medical student, and because OB really is on the front line of the culture of life.
Yeah.
And last night you spoke about how your malpractice rates just skyrocketed.
Right.
Incredibly so.
Right.
Are you aware of anyone who's Catholic OB anywhere in the country able to survive financially?
So for all you don't know, Dr. Bob is the president of the Catholic Medical Association here in the Denver area, and he so generously hosted us last night. He's talking about the financial end. First, let me say that when a young student rotates through our office, we always ask them about what they think they're going to do with their lives. What are they going to do? And so the first piece is that there is so much stress on them. If their professors know they're Catholic or Christian, they're really told not to get involved in OBGYN, right? Martha Coakley in that battle in Massachusetts, I forget who she was running against, said there is no reason why, there's no idea that a Catholic should ever be an emergency room doctor, because if you don't do emergency contraception, we don't want you. So there's this push to keep your conscience and hang it off at the door. So we have mentors. We talk about, remember, this is a calling. Bishop talked about you're on the front line. It's a calling to understand suffering. That's the essence. And so we're trying to get these docs just to jump into the water with us. Because guess what? It's a great place to be. Even in the midst of this nonsense, it's the most, because if you're doing God's will, it's the best thing in the world. Because you know your daddy's going to take care of you. And so That's part of it, getting them in the system. I now know doctors across the country who can help you get into good residencies that don't force their onerous legalism on your conscience. We can help you get a good residency spot. We're doing that now. We do that actively. We call it the Underground Railroad. Get it around, get them out there. Come on, we can do this. Come join us. Because we need doctors at the Tepeyac Family Center. We need doctors at Bella. We need doctors at Lighthouse. We need doctors to create an economy. So now we get to the point of Dr. Bob, who says, how do you make it financially worthwhile? Bobby, we are in a medical milieu right now that is pushing us to not only a single payer, but everybody joined the big conglomerate. Everybody joined the hospital. Everybody joined. Well, for us, I'm here because I'm asking you to help me noodle this. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, he blesses it. We have these incredible centers. You know, we have 5 doctors. We have 20 staff members. We do 17,000 office visits a year. They travel from West Virginia, Baltimore, the ocean, Richmond, to deliver babies with us. They're traveling an hour and a half to deliver. We are humbled. We thank every one of them for coming to support us because we can't offend anyone because we don't contracept. So the question becomes, how do you financially make that happen? Because what's medical care? $150,000 for some medical schools? You come out with that bill, how the hell do you pay that off? Well, it's kind of like thinking outside the box. There's some people in Washington that were trying to think about, can you do a microbank? You do microbanks for other countries. Why don't you get a microbank idea to help pro-life students help pay back their bills with reasonable loans? I don't know the answer to that, Bob, because we had to go nonprofit, because I told you, without a case against us, our malpractice went from $40K per doctor per year to $120,000 per doctor per year. I had 4 docs in the practice. We went from 140 to 500 in 2 months. And that's when 3 guys in my practice, husbands of wives, we did a telethon when I was a for-profit company, and we raised $250,000 in a weekend because we had street credibility by seeing the pregnancy centers. They were donating from crazy places all over. And what I'm trying to say is that in that regard, when you support a nonprofit like the Tepeyac Center or Divine Mercy Care in Virginia, and we become more solid, we help people all across the country. It's like multiplying your gifts. And so this idea of finances, I'm beginning to talk to people just like they are trying to buy out abortionists in some parts of the country. How can we help the positive end of that and help these men and women who are stepping into the breach, so to speak, trying to do what our seminarians and priests are exhorting us from the altar? I listened to Archbishop today and I was uncomfortable because he made me want to do more. From my Jesuit days of Magis, I want to do more. Because what else, Lord, do you need? I don't know the answer to that, but if there are business people in the audience in healthcare who think that they might want to have a conversation about this, please, 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 before you leave, get in touch. Because we have to do that. That's one of the big, the parents, especially of these kids, go, come on, they don't want you there, and then you're going to come out with all this debt. Mm-mm.
Dr. John, thank you so much for getting back to the in vitro. I don't know a lot about the medical part of that, but the eggs that have been harvested, the embryos that are harvested are waiting or frozen. How long are those kept, and how can we encourage people, families that we know who have had their children to have the rest of their children, and can they do that at any point?
You mean like snowflake adoptions?
Yeah, to either offer them up for adoption or have them themselves again.
Right. Some of the best Catholic bioethicists on this topic have said that, I talk about 2 Thessalonians Oh, thank you. I talk about 2 Thessalonians, of how dark it is, and yet we're a light on a hill. It's a beacon of light to be here in Denver. Divine Mercy Care and the Tepeyac Center are looked to. I mean, we're asked for help, which we want to be a part of this. This in vitro question, these wonderful bioethicists have said, we have come to a place in bioethics where there is no moral solution. Because, once again, I was of the mindset that you just adopt them. Adopt one. They're in a burning building. They're going to die if we leave them there. We've been freezing embryos in concentration camps since 1979 and 80 when I was there. There are millions of frozen embryos across the country, just in this country. Don't let them, it's not 400,000, it's not 500,000, it's up near 1 million. And I see the women who come in on their 3rd baby, they've gone elsewhere, had in vitro, they're now pregnant, they come to the Tepeyac Center because we deliver well. We don't judge. We do talk to them about their thoughts and their dreams for their in vitro embryos. And they all cry. They are all sad because now they realize they're their children, not their property. And they froze their children. I have no, some people have said just baptize them and then turn the machines off. Some people have said there's no good answer, Johnny, because if you adopt them, you're just creating, they're going to do more of those. You're just going to keep the system churning out embryos. So once again, I wish I could joke about this, but the church is against, we're at a place where there is no good ethical answer in the world of reproductive health.
So my question has to deal with arguing with pro-aborts about the percentage of women that have abortions for life-saving, ectopic, that type of thing. Have you ever come across that, or can you elaborate on that?
So once again, I think the church really gets it on this, even though there's no good answers for many of these questions. Mercy, love, understanding, and walking with them through suffering. Whenever there's misery, what answers misery? Mercy. Even with the worst human misery, mercy is the answer. So let me kind of go to this question. So you asked about whether the life of the mother, basically. Well, down in Dallas about a month ago, a young girl asked me the question of, Dr. John, and I was at a big Catholic high school. There were many, many kids there. It was before a football game, so I don't know if they were there because of me or because of the football game. However, it didn't matter. The class was really interested. The teacher was on fire. She was a 27-year-old, and they were really interested in these questions. Young girl in the middle of the back of the room goes, Dr. John, that sounds really nice, but are you telling me that you let the mother die to save a baby? I go, no. I go, let me just rephrase your question. I should abort a baby because the life of the mother's in danger. That's right? Yes, that's what I'm saying. I said, well, first off, I always start with experience and language. So you understand that what that means is that if I end let's say you're the mother, and let's say you're pregnant and you have an illness, and I have to somehow abort the baby to save your life. Once the baby's gone, guess who's still left walking around this earth? You. And you're the mother. And you have to come face to face with the reality that you couldn't protect your child. And that out of self-preservation, you chose to end their life. So the first thing is, at the Tepeyac Center, we never use the language of pitting mother against child, ever. I have the devotion, I have to take care of 2 patients, always. That's the core of OBGYN, take care of 2. And now with technology, and we talked about this a little bit last night, with good invasive monitoring, catheterizations and pulsatile anesthesia and medications, whether it's cancer or pulmonary hypertension or lupus or diabetes, what have you, we can get that baby pretty far along. So we don't have to do the termination, we just deliver the baby early. And we get mom alive and get her back to health, but also not at the expense of having to end the life of her child. So yes, and so that question is often asked. Yes. So this was my experience. I'm at the Catholic hospital. I'm a second-year resident, and down the hallway walks Blue Betty. Here was Betty, one of our patients, blue as a blueberry. Or I guess in your neck of the woods, it's a boysenberry, or whatever you guys have out here in Montana. Blueberries. Blue Betty's walking down the aisle. Blue as my tie. Instantly, this is probably pulmonary hypertension or a blood clot, and we're going to have to just terminate. We're at a Catholic hospital. I'm the second-year resident. I call up my buddy. We're going to transfer this lady to the city hospital, and we have to save this woman's life. IV's running. We set her in the hospital. We get her in the ambulance, get her over there. Me and my chief resident abort the baby. She dies in the process. Baby's dead, mother's dead. And I sat there and I went, what the hell did I just do? We never cared about the health of the mother. We never put a Swan-Ganz. We never put her in the ICU. We never did any of those precautions. We just knew that we needed to end the life of the... We were so fixated on that termination, because that's what you do, I missed the whole point. It was like what like Abby was trying to say with the chickens and the other things that she was talking about. You're so close and you missed it all. That's why I talk about divine mercy so much. Because when I had that first confession, gentlemen, I pray to God you have many of them and you do them well. Because I'm telling you, it's the most cleaning, merciful, gentle, humbling. It is truly like being given a new life, the sacrament of mercy. And I pray next year that we really help people repent and believe and walk them with this. But yes, it goes back to that question of just, you do what you can do. And I thank God for that. Oh, you're welcome, Rosina.
I want to talk a little bit about adolescent health.
Adolescent health.
I don't know why we don't talk about the environment when we're talking to them about adolescent health and the hormones coming down the waterways. We talk about global warming, and the satellites show there hasn't been any global warming in 18 years, but they're taught in school that there is. Well, now we've got the hormones coming down the water for the birth control pills. And in intersex fish, they have male fish have female eggs in their testes, and the sludge that's coming off of this that they use for fertilizer in the fields are now causing brain problems in animals. And I really think, because they're all taught this global warming stuff, that we ought to hit this with the adolescents on the environment.
Sure.
And the environmentalists don't want to hear this because they do not want to address the hormones in our water.
In my lifetime, I've had metastatic testicular cancer that metastasized to my brain. I've also broken my neck, and I've been in a coma because of pancreatitis on a renal dialysis machine. I'm going to use that because of suffering to get to your first question about the environment. So I had a metastatic testicular tumor that was of my testicle. I don't know the statistics off the top of my head anymore, but 80% are sensitive to radiation therapy, seminomas. You just blast them with radiation, and you get a great cure rate. Well, mine wasn't a seminoma. It was an embryonal cell. So God had a funny sense of humor and gave me a positive pregnancy test. I had a positive HCG from my tumor, so I was morning sick. My liver was not clearing my estrogen because I was chunky, chubby, overweight, and I was puking my guts out. So I'm getting treated through chemotherapy. That's when the abortionists who were covering me, I want to tell one praise story on that also. But getting to your question, I had a professor call me from the NIH, and she basically asked me some questions. She said, did I grow up in the Northeast? I said, yes. She asked me if I lived near the Hudson River Valley watershed. I said, yes. She said, did you have well water? I said, yes. She said, your tumor looks like it might have had estrogenic components from the environment. And we can trace that back to the waterway. Fascinating. I think it's out there. Second story on that. I'm at Harvard, and I'm trying to defend myself against a pro-abort lady here on my left. Lovely woman, just misguided, talking to me about adolescent care, that you have to get rid of the poor by killing those who are poor. So I'm talking to her, and she says, I bet you're one of those crazies that doesn't contracept. And I said, yeah, you're right. I've gone green. I don't pump women's bodies full of these hormones if I can, because I really believe that it's an environmental issue. And some people are saying it's sexual environmentalism. It resonates. It's using their language. I'm talking to her here. The amphitheater is filled here. 4 pro-aborts behind me give me a standing ovation. I look around and I go, what? And they're like, listen, man. Their heads were shaved. They had piercings in their face. This is the future of, healthcare. They go, we may disagree with you on abortion, but we love what you're doing. You're liberating us from those hormones that you people keep dumping into our bodies. But they had to get that radical in order to see it. I pray that it becomes more commonplace for that. And then the last praise story I want to tell you is about that cancer experience I had. The only docs that helped me out at the time were the abortionists, because I had helped them with some of their complications. Because when you walk in the room, it's the patient you're caring about. I didn't care that they were trying to abort the woman. I wasn't going to let her die. So these guys helped me. They were always at the hospital. My practice was growing. Theirs was always there. They said, no, Johnny, you've helped us so much. We'll cover you for nothing. I was by myself. I was struggling with the finances, with what Dr. Bob was saying. Yes, I'll take you. Great. Dr. Bruchalski, the pro-life doctor who's Catholic, has got the abortionist covering for him while he's got cancer. That sounds crazy. 2 issues with that. One was, I had a pro-life woman coming to me with her second pregnancy because the man who was covering me was her first doctor who aborted her. She came to me because of PAS, post-abortion healing. We were working with her because we really care for that whole person. Guess who delivered her baby when I was in the hospital with my chemo? Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob, she says, he touches the same place that he killed my first baby. Oh my God, it's him. Oh my God, divine mercy, please, for the sake of the sorrowful passion, please, please, please. I forgive you. I forgive you. The secret to relations. She comes to see me at her 6-week checkup. She walks up to me, and I'm bald, I'm bloated, I'm filled with steroids. She punches me. She says, damn it, you weren't there for me. You weren't there. And she starts crying, and then she says, guess what? I had to forgive the bastard, and therefore I'm free. God has given me. So she goes, it happened like this. And it was because you got cancer, and I'm so grateful. I'm sorry I hit you. And I'm just like going, is this what Catholic medicine's all about? Ah! Second question. Second story on the same piece. Because remember, the question is, how far do you follow? It's that movie with the Cistercians in Algeria that stay at the monastery and get their heads lopped off. How far do you follow? How far do I follow? How far do you follow? How far can you encourage me to follow? How far can these men encourage me to follow? How much sister can encourage me to follow? That's what it's all about, right? So, the same guy who did that, 2 weeks later, storms into my bedroom, because I'm on the 4th round of chemo. He goes, that's it. I will never do this for you ever again. I just delivered a friggin' monster. You had a kid there with no friggin' brain, no skull. The baby was 37 weeks old. And you told them that they could do a hospice birth? What in God's name are you doing, Bruchalski? This is criminal. It's actually criminal. And I'm going to report you. This was my friend Bob. And I'm sitting there at like 11 o'clock at night with the IV going, and I'm like, Bob, I'm so sorry. I really should have told you about it. I should have thought enough. We do this perinatal hospice, man. He goes, yeah, it was crazy. There were people in the room. They actually wanted to be there. I'm like, what the hell are you? This is a monster. Callousness. Bob's a good guy. Remember, they're not evil. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So, now let's rewind it 5 years. Come on in. Hey, Johnny, it's Bob. I just got back from Yugoslavia. I know you loved... Wait. I know you love Dubrovnik. I took this picture for you. I was above the city on the south side. I know you love the wall. I know you love the history. Here's a picture I took for you. Ever since I've met you, you always try to combine real social justice. So I've decided to go work with the UN to exhume the bodies of the massacred in the Bosnian War. And I took my vacation, and I want to thank you at Divine Mercy Care and the Tepeyac Family Center for inspiring me to give back. I said, Bob, my God, that's hard work. That's tough. Tell me, we talked a little bit. He goes, I gotta go. He walks out the door and he goes, I gotta tell you something, but don't you spread it. He goes, I stopped terminating. I stopped putting in IUDs. I still contracept, but something's going on in me. He goes, do you remember the night that I came into your room and yelled at you about the monster? I go, yeah, Bob, those are things you don't forget. He goes, Johnny, and that's when I knew he was serious, because he only uses that. Johnny, the mother of God, Johnny. He goes, Johnny, there was more love in that room delivering a monster than in any woman I've ever delivered in my life. And we have the real sweet practice, right? I deliver the senators and the football players and the business folks. He goes, John, the kids welcomed their sibling and didn't comment that there was no head or no brain or no skull. The grandparents loved it. They held this child for the 4 minutes that it was alive, and they were singing to it, happy birthday and goodbye. We love you. He says, Johnny, I was so angry at you that night because in delivering a monster that you guys did with your program, you were creating love. He goes, I'm a really good guy. He goes, I've done my best in my life. I can't do that anymore. I can't abort anymore. He's probably in his late 60s at the time, maybe early 60s. That is the power of Jesus Christ, using suffering for his glory. And I just want to leave you guys, remember, suffering is that mystery, as Archbishop talked about today. It's that suffering that we unite with Christ. And I really think that's the essence of Catholic medicine, both body and soul, whether it's done in the confessional or whether it's done in the vestibule of heaven, which is our office. Sickness reminds you of eternity because it's leading towards death. And once you get people to think about suffering in that eternal type way, they're a lot more open to listening to the evangelization and to things. But I am grateful for the talk, and I just want you to know that there have been so many, when I say that there are no answers and things, no. With God's mercy and with good people talking to one another, this is how they survived the Dark Ages, by coming together in monasteries and figuring out the Eucharist as the center of it. Hospitals were built in the Dark Ages by guilds. They were in the shape of crosses. What was in the center? The altar. What was on the altar? The tabernacle. What was in the tabernacle? Jesus. So when I joke about, or I talk about my body, my choice versus this is my body given up for you, it's real. It is absolutely, it's the secret to returning us, whether it's political. And I'm just so grateful for you guys being here today and being so loving to me and to Cheney from Virginia, from the Heart of Darkness. We're going to be leaving tomorrow. If there's anything further you want to talk about, I'm open to it. I really am. And I hope we can stay in contact because we want to build that culture of life one heart at a time. So thank you.